Debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, click OK, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, folks. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here. Good to have you all. Should we do a bit of housekeeping? Anybody up for that? Or should we just chit-chat about the new endeavour I've done with Omi videos? Which would you prefer?
A little bit of housekeeping, I guess, right?
Sure. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Don't all go at once. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No. Not yet.
Okay. Like, for whatever reason, the final experiment has gained a certain degree of traction. And as that is the case with people endeavouring to call others shills based on their conclusions, there's no need. Let's just break down what actually is going on with the final experiment. The whole point of the final experiment is to mask an antipodal assumption. What does that mean? It means that for them to suggest that they're proving a ball, they must first assume they're on a ball. That's why they're going down to Antarctica, so that they can assume they're on the bottom of a ball already. So before they do anything for this endeavour, their side of this argument must assume they're already on a ball when they get there. That's called begging the question. So how do you hide this very obvious fallacy of assuming the very thing you're trying to prove? Well, you mask it in a layer of other fallacies. First being an affirming the consequent fallacy. So you mask it by not letting people realise that the thing you're trying to prove isn't the thing you're actually observing. You make it seem like something else that you're observing, not whether or not Earth's a sphere, but whether or not there's a 24-hour sun. Well, that's affirming the consequent fallacy as follows. If P, I assume my outcome of an antipodal positioning system globe Earth, then Q, I'll see a 24-hour sun. Q, I'll see a 24-hour sun. Therefore, my antipodal assumption begging the question fallacy of a globe Earth I haven't proven, I've just assumed. So if P, then Q, Q, therefore P, affirming the consequent. That's the fallacy. What happens if the general populace spots that fallacy? Well, what do you do next? You mask that fallacy in another fallacy called a false dichotomy fallacy, so that you don't notice that you're affirming the consequent and not actually observing whether or not Earth's spherical. You're observing the sun, and you're observing the sun so you can assume the Earth is spherical by begging the question. You suggest that you put a flat earthers model up against the globe model, so nobody notices that you've got a globe model already then. So when you make your argument for the globe model, it's already in place with you on the bottom of it when you start looking at the sun. So to recap, to beg the question that you are antipodal on a sphere, you will infer that an observation of the sun will prove you're begging the question fallacy of the sphere you've assumed, and so that you don't notice that an observation of the sun, not the Earth, the assumption of the Earth being spherical, you mask it by stacking up in false dichotomy a globe Earth antipodal assumption with a flat Earth model to make it all seem fair. No, false dichotomy, affirming the consequent fallacy, begging the question fallacy. And to top it all, the begging the question of sphericity requires flat Earth measurements of the stars to create the ball to beg the question of. This whole farce starts with the systems that create these maps and models, which are flat Earth elevation angles of the stars.
Well,
Any
I found
questions?
it interesting that your buddy interviewed him yesterday.
Who's my buddy? Who's he? Shout out to Jardo. Says Kojak. Wasn't Kojak black?
No, Kojak was like Greek. Telly
Greek.
Savalas.
Oh, okay.
Arwen interviewed him, and I don't know why he didn't say those things. I didn't listen to it. I heard he interviewed him. I don't know if it's true. I haven't checked.
Who knows? Who cares? All that happens whenever I see any interviews with Will Duffy is he skirts the antipodal assumption in favour of highlighting the actual observation that may or may not have a phenomena to observe. And only that. What, so long as you don't state, if Earth's a sphere, we'll see 24 hours of sun in Antarctica. No, because then I'll be there all over it like flies on the proverbial, saying, if Earth's a sphere is a begging the question fallacy. That's the thing you're trying to prove. Don't start by assuming the very thing you're trying to prove. Oh, well, I'm not. I'm going down to assume the thing I prove and then look and see if there's a 24-hour sun on the thing I've assumed I'm not actually proving, I'm just assuming. Well, that seems like a antipodal assumption dressed up in an affirming the consequent. What if I stack up a false dichotomy of your model versus ours? Then no one will notice. Yeah, we have. But everyone's focused on whether or not Jaren's a shill, like it bleeding matters. Point out the fallacy, understand the flaw in the logic, and move on with your life. Who cares if other people are too stupid to recognise the fallacy, Jaren included? Now, Jaren has had the fallacy pointed out to him. By me, he's acknowledged it. So therefore, feel free to call him a shill, but it's inconsequential. Address the argument. The argument is an assumption of a globe Earth in the first instance, stacked up in a false dichotomy against a flat Earth, also a globe projection. They want the azimuthal equidistant globe projection for some reason. Who cares? It's masking the if P, then QQ, therefore P, affirming the consequent. If Earth's a sphere by assumption, I'll see a 24-hour sun. 24-hour sun, therefore my globe assumption. That is it. Any further questions?
Would you consider it a social experiment to see, which flat earthers are gullible enough to believe that looking up at the sun is going to prove anything beneath your feet?
I mean, you could do. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, Matthias. Yes, that is you threw experiment in there to get me stuttering, didn't you, bastard? Yeah. Very well done.
That's why I said social experiment instead of science experiment.
Oh, I didn't hear that bit. I didn't hear social experiment. Yeah, it is a good word then. Yeah, perfectly appropriate too. Yes, it's in that regard. I hate the word, but yes, a social experiment, if you want to call it that, to see who's dumb enough to buy this affirming the consequent fallacy and not recognise that. What are you going to go and look at in Antarctica? The sun? Right. Hello? Is that going to prove what's on the ground? No. Now, we can measure the ground with respect to positioning of those items above the ground and verify whether or not they're above the ground at those times. That's useful. We've developed maps so we can navigate with those flat Earth angles with respect to the ground and the angles we measure off the ground. But as for, I'm going to observe the sun and therefore I'm going to make an assumption that the ground I'm standing on is antipodal from where I began this journey, definitely not. How dumb people are is how quickly they recognise that antipodal assumption that's needed for this quasi-experiment. Actually fraud. It's not an experiment. It's fraud. Shout out to Unitox Femu. TY for showing the world 2 urban British boys, says Unitox Femu. Thank you for the super chat. Talking about Omi TV. We'll get to that shortly.
I actually appreciate what you're doing on Omi TV, Nathan. It seems like to me, from my past 10 years' experience on these FE platforms, that the Globers are just in the FE groups to troll and mock and harass and, argue from invincible ignorance fallacies and denial. And it seems like if you go to non-FE platforms, you you're able to have a real discussion with someone that just isn't there to troll.
I mean, it varies. I mean, it's not all positive, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Your general reaction isn't of complete disdain, where the person who opposes you wants your kids off you, wants you to drink bleach. You know, that is what we face. We face people who despise us on this platform. And because they can't get the upper hand, they want to bitch and moan about how unfair it is that we're not meeting them on their territory where they can take control of their mute buttons, etc., etc. It's like, well, we've done this long enough. On a Friday, I opened up the platform to a neutral server that we do not run, that I have absolutely no control over, the mute buttons in the server. So it's like people who want to bleat and moan about, oh, it's not fair. Nathan won't come to me under my terms and conditions when I don't even know him. No, I won't. I've been running a show on the debate of this subject for about 6 or 7 years now, and anybody's welcome to join. I've even pandered to you to a certain extent by joining a separate, non-related to me server, so that you can have your neutral platforms that you so desire, 1 day a week on a Friday. I mean, it's audio chaos in terms of it's not run the way I would run it because I'm not running it, but that's what apparently they want. But do they come? No, we get the same old faces doing the same old thing because they hate us. Yeah, that's what we get. You go out into the normal world on a bus stop, people don't behave like that, typically. It's an experiment, quote unquote, in the discussion of whether or not people at a bus stop would unite in their, oh right, so Earth's flat then, as opposed to ganging up on the guy talking about it with his friend. You assume that everybody around him would immediately decry any word that they're overhearing, instantly feeling their necessity to interject it in the conversation and tell the person who they're overhearing that they're wrong. That's the impression from what our audience will see running a Flat Earth Debate Discord server. Well, that is not the case. This is very, very distorted in terms of how the perception of Flat Earth may be for your average Joe Normie. Now, if you come here and think this is how it is, well, just go out into the general Normie society and talk about a controversial subject and see how receptive or non-receptive the person you're talking to is. The chances are they're not going to suddenly suggest that you should have social services come and take your kids off you. That's Jado. Jaren has gone full retard. Thank you for the super chat. He doesn't, for whatever reason, want to lean in on the logical flaws of the argument that is being utilised for the final experiment, Jado. Now, you can call it shillery, you can call it ignorance, I don't care. My conscience is clear. I've approached the guy, cap in hand, in spite of all of his slurs against me, and said, look, this is the dealio with this experiment, that it isn't. Here's how affirming the consequent works. I've laid it out to him, and he's confirmed he understood. Compared it to other fallacies he thought were being used to make sure that to let me know that he understood how that fallacy works. Now that I've done that with Jaren, my enemy, someone who calls me a scammer, I've gone in peace and offered him what I've telling the audience. I've summarised it at the beginning of this show. 76 people watching. Wonderful that you can all hear me summarise it. Now, I took a reasonably extensive period of time phrasing it on messages for Jaren to be able to read and comprehend easily, which he did. Is he leaning into the fallacy? No, he's not. From what I hear on the grapevine, he's turned around and suggested that we are actually dealing with modus tollens. Now, whether or not that's true, I haven't confirmed. But regardless, he's not leaning into the fact it's a fallacy. The antipodal positioning is what is required from their side. That is what the entire basis of all false dichotomies and affirming the consequent fallacies in this regard are masking. It's been pointed out and highlighted. We've shouted it from the rooftops. We can't do anything else. I've done it with Jaren personally. My conscience is now clear. I'll keep telling the audience if it gains popularity. This is how the fallacy breaks down. First you assume a globe, then you assume that you're going to see something not related to the globe, in this case 24 hours of sun, in the Antarctic, and then you stack that up in false dichotomy against a model that allows you to not focus on the fact they've assumed their model in the other half of the false dichotomy, to affirm the consequent and beg the question of antipodal positioning for a globe that came from flat Earth measurements. There you go, there's the full summary. Done.
No, I'm tired of just getting hit with a model. What model? They keep giving us a model and nobody's stepping to them with this except you. Now, I just heard a little bit of what was said, and never once did he say we don't have a model. What model?
That's not true. I watched on Banjo's channel he re-upped somebody who'd gone on Jaren's channel who I was unfamiliar with, Zed something or other, and he's saying to Jaren, he's worse than me, worse in the respect that he's saying, I'm not prepared to commit to a sun that circles. Now, for whatever reason he dodged, he hadn't personally experienced it and wasn't prepared to ascribe physicality to the sun, and therefore create a circle on a model or map that would infer a circle movement of the sun. That was his point. Now, I've summarised that because I listened to him repeat it about 20 times to Jaren, with Jaren demanding that he accepts this position so we can move on and get him to ascribe himself to a model. I know your game, Jaren. It's not really that subtle. Anyway, Jaren aside, the guy's unwilling to commit to something, and I've been there. I'm not trying to condescend to him. In fact, it was admirable, because he's having to look like he's ignorant of something that Jaren even credited me with, which is actually watching it occur on the 24-hour tracking of the sun. Now, we still tracked it with respect to an azimuthal equidistant projection, which the guy pointed out to Jaren and Jaren denied. It's like, no, for us to do that sun tracking, we had to use a model to reference where it would be above on the maps. Now, it showed that the maps are distorted. We knew that anyway. But in terms of the guy's unwillingness to commit to the description of the physicality of the sun itself, I was blown away at how staunch he was in that regard. But at some point in Banjo's video, at about 45-minute mark, Jaren gets him to bite, and suddenly he's talking about this model versus that model. Because I think the preceding thing that Jaren led him into doing, it was saying, it doesn't matter if we use a globe model or a triangle model or a hexagon model. Or a flat model in false dichotomy with a globe that's assuming antipodal positioning. Yeah, I've already covered it. But at that point, they're suddenly like, well, on this model, how would this work with these three observations? You're like, now you've lost. He's won. He's browbeaten you, Jaren has, into accepting this false dichotomy. That's what Jaren seems to be here for at the moment. And I can understand why everyone's calling him a shill for it. He's facilitating this fallacy. Enabling his group of people who follow him to suggest that having a false dichotomy flat earth model to stack up against the globe will in some way falsify the flat earth model that most of the people that are coming across Jaren are saying, I don't ascribe to this. It's a globe projection. Why would you ascribe this to me? Especially, why would you suggest that it falsifies something? It's like, oh, okay. But there we go. So that's the situation currently with the final experiment, which it isn't.
Yeah, I just listened to a bit of what Arwen was saying. He did interview him. Didn't hear Arwen say one time yet what model.
Shout out to Jardo. Just gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much indeed.
I'm not there, Jado.
Where's it gone? There we go. Thank you, Jardo. Okay, was there anything else to discuss other than the final experiment, which seems to be on everyone's lips? Everyone's either protesting the...
I don't know why.
Go on, Neil.
I don't know why it's on everybody's lips. Is this a joke? Are we back in 2015, 2016? What, did everybody get stupid?
Maybe.
To be fair, it's going to help Earthers out. It's going to help us determine, who is actually is all about the truth and who isn't.
No, if you fall victim to this fallacy,
really.
That doesn't mean you're not chasing truth. That just means you've fallen victim to a fallacy, which could be the case for Jaren. You could ascribe this to ignorance, in spite of me telling him what the fallacy is, not being able to comprehend it and link it to what's actually occurring, and then going out of his way to justify and facilitate the use of a false dichotomy. Yes, that only benefits our opponent. That just could be because he's dumb. It could be because he's a mastermind genius shill here to lead everyone Pied Piper style to a false dichotomy. It doesn't matter either way. It's a false dichotomy masking an antipodal assumption that needs a flat earth measurement.
Well, with truth comes humility, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just see lots of people attacking the man. It's like, make up your own personal opinion about an individual if you're interacting with them. In the case of this guy that was on Banjo's channel, mirror of a discussion like I'd had with Jaren several times. I've had 2 of the similar discussions, one about science, one about the globe earth requirement for flat earth elevation angles. Jaren's never been particularly receptive. I don't want to necessarily ascribe the reason why, because it's pointless. It's just I highlight where somebody, in that instance, Jaren, doesn't comprehend something because they've reiterated or doubled down on a point that's incorrect after having the correct point or rebuttal put to them. You can only point that out in isolation and then move on and address your own audience with the correct information and hope that your information will win through overall with time. There's going to be a certain amount of Jaren fanboys out there that are potentially unaware of the fallacy use, while Jaren promotes the idea of this false dichotomy, masking and affirming the consequent, masking and begging the question of a globe in the first instance by antipodal positioning that has come from flat earth elevation angles to the stars. Now, if you're unaware of those complex fallacies that are being employed, then you're unaware and you might fall victim to them, including Jaren. Yeah, random hero in the chat says Jaren is ace. See, so he's got his fans. Like I say, if it goes badly, I'll do the same as I did after Globebusters did the same thing on Netflix. Yeah, here you go. I told you it was an affirming the consequent. It still is. Nothing's changed. If there's a high degree of an embarrassment factor for Jaren, it's like maybe he is that scapegoat. He's the whipping boy for Flat Earth there to go on Netflix and look dumb on our behalf. Almost 100 people watching. Woohoo! Please share the show if you've not done so already. It's like 2 clicks to put your share out into the Bebo or MySpace or Facebook or whatever realm that it is that you're affiliated with on social media. 2 clicks, click, shared the show. Please do so if you've not done so already. There's a good chance you're only here because someone else on the show watching has shared it. So thank you if you've shared the show. Please share it if you haven't done so already. Have you all been enjoying my Omi videos? Hope I'm saying it correctly. Yeah, we really enjoyed them. Ah, well, the comments have been great. Lots of people have responded really well to them. I'm glad you're all enjoying them so much.
Well, I noticed that I think it was a video I watched yesterday about I think he's 18 or 19-year-old. He was an artist or something. I
Yep.
noticed that at the beginning of your discussion with him, he was nothing but smiles. But at the end, he didn't really have that big smile as what you mentioned at the beginning.
Did you hear what he said in the
I thought that
middle?
was kind of weird.
You could almost, for a split second, accuse him of blasphemy. I re-listened to that several times when I was editing it, and I had to make up my mind about how I felt about what he said. Because I basically dropped the bombshell on him, Earth's flat, space is fake. And his response is, Jesus Christ, thank you. Pause.
Yeah.
So he's literally declaring thanks to Jesus in that moment. So after I'd re-listened to it several times to be able to say this, in my mind, after I'd re-listened to it, it felt like he was literally professing thanks to Jesus for finding out the truth of the world. That's how it seemed to me in the moment. Not in the moment, after listening to it several times. In the moment, I thought he was blaspheming. You know what I mean? In other words, it gave me a wry smile when I realised that his contemplation declared the name of Jesus within as he had that moment. I thought that was quite profound.
Hey Nathan. Yeah,
Hey, one day.
I've watched a couple of them. What I found interesting is because it's a term you use a lot when you're describing the gas pressure in the air that we breathe and disappearing into a vacuum. When you're explaining that to them, a lot of them actually saying, "Well, we wouldn't be able to breathe." They're actually saying it before you say it. They're realizing that, well, yeah, if there was a vacuum, the gas would dissipate into that area of space, and we wouldn't be able to breathe. I think a few of them have actually said that.
Yeah, 3 of them said it. The last one I published, which wasn't the last one to be recorded, but nevertheless, I think I titled the video "Facts, Bro," and he said it before I did, which is we wouldn't be able to breathe. Same with the Indian and white girl in the car that were uni students. So I drop it on what would happen if the sky really was a vacuum, and the guy has that moment but doesn't say it, and then waits for her. Very very gentlemanly, homosexual guy as well. He was a real gentleman. He waits for her, for the penny to drop. She says it, and then he says, we'd be dead. As they contemplated it. And no interjection was required. I just had to ask the question. And they're both gasping. The best moment of all was that girl in that car. In that moment I've just described, she's all smiles, chit-chatting, and then you watch her face drop. As the penny drops, her face goes from big smile to down-turned contemplation, slightly horrified. And then she gasps. That was, in my opinion, my favourite moment.
Yeah, it was a good one, that. I enjoyed that one.
You were there when I recorded those thugs, weren't you, on deck?
Yeah, the one who was going to make some acid and throw it on your face and then kill you.
I had to edit. Thanks for that. I had to edit that out. Well, you've said it now, so I can't really undo that moment. Hopefully, that doesn't get me flagged.
Sorry.
That's okay. Just for the audience's benefit, that video is 25 minutes long. The interaction was 45 minutes long. Some of the things they said to me were so horrific that I had to remove them for fear that it would get my channel flag. Yeah, that was how vicious they were. What you're getting in terms of a tiny taste of how vicious. Would you not agree, One Deck? Well, you've kind of spoiled it by saying something that I already edited out of the video. But there we go. You've got a taste from One Deck. Not that I was hoping that would happen.
No, I mean, I was listening to it while you was doing that, and it was frightening a little bit, really. I mean, when you're listening to these people and what they're saying, and when they say these things and the way they are, it's frightening, really. You know, and they're asking about personal questions about who's in the house with you or in your apartment, and where you're doing this talk, and we're going to come. It was very threatening, you know. So you've got to, and this is what and they're not people like Matthias said. These aren't people within the arena. These are just like normal kids, and that's the way they've reacted to the suggestion of a flat Earth. So this is how deep it goes.
Yeah, but I had to tame that down considerably, and huge chunks of it had to be removed because I was like, this will get me flagged. It doesn't matter that it's not me saying it or that it's being said to me. It just won't. It'll flag the censors. It's too vicious. I had to cut a lot of it out. But yeah, like you say, One Deck afterwards was like obviously a bit shaken. I mean, I don't think I was particularly shaken. There were a few moments that I was like, bloody hell, while I was recording it. But obviously, I'm a stout professional. You can see that in the video, I hope. In fact, the only thing that irritated me was when I couldn't quite get an answer out to one of their questions. That got my goat a little bit. But other than that, all the insults in the world, I'm like, okay, the tone and the depravity level's been turned up to 11. But in terms of the sentiment and the emotion behind it, it's no different to I said this in the pre-show, it's no different to any other interaction we have with people who feel the same about us when they are in the arena. They hate us. They would rather see us die than have our message reach another person. That's how they feel about us. Well, coming across somebody who didn't know that they felt like that about us until they were confronted on the fly, to me, is like, yeah, okay, you're the things you say you'll do are a lot more extreme, but the feeling and emotion behind it's identical. There's no difference.
Matthias, so it is, I'm enjoying them, especially when you get in a good conversation with the people and you're getting the points across and they're realizing themselves, well, yeah, we have got a vacuum, and where would that pressure go if there was a vacuum? It would just dissipate into there, and it's like it's like they're realizing something. They've never thought about this really. They just led to believe what they've been told. And you're touching out to people, just normal people, and educating them, which is good.
But there is a slight problem in terms of when I'm hacking these videos up for public consumption. There's certain details that are getting lost. Sometimes they're not. In other words, I'll qualify various different timelines, specifically with the church. So a few people have pulled me on this in comments, and I'll listen back and go, yeah, contextually I've said that wrong. So I keep using the same value. So I'll say about 300 years ago, which in terms of Copernicus, it's more like 500 years ago. But I tend to take the end of when they've finished processing the elliptical orbits and have got to the distances, and they're sort of at the end stage of a model that they would suggest is correct for you to believe in is 300 years. But I'm never qualifying that with anybody. So it's in many of the edits, it comes across as me saying, well, Copernicus was 300 years ago. It's like, well, I know that's not strictly true, but I haven't necessarily ascribed any real significance to it in that moment. In other words, my motivation isn't to get the timeline 100% correct in that moment. Whereas in the comments, people are like, well, actually, Copernicus was 500 years ago. And you're like, well, yeah, I know. And putting an actual date on it in the video could have been something that I chewed up an extra couple of seconds with if it was qualified earlier on in the video. But it isn't necessarily the point I'm trying to drive at. So while I've picked this almost arbitrary number of 300 years, it isn't. It's the end of the development by the church of the heliocentric model for you to believe it as it currently stands. Now, don't get me wrong, Copernicus wasn't 300 years ago. He died 500 years ago. But it's not really relevant when you're trying to get somebody to just contemplate an aspect of that whole story, which is that it is a religious story of being on a ball, as opposed to whether or not Copernicus existed 300 or 500 years ago. So just, while I do take note of people correcting me on it, I'm like, okay, fine. Now I will try and brush up on my history. It's been a long time since I interviewed Johnny Cerrucci. It's probably 10 years ago since I had my advanced history lessons from some of the people who are far more educated in the actual backstory and historic timeline through the church of heliocentrism. So maybe I will go back and rewatch some of my own interviews because, yeah, I don't care. That's the problem. So where I don't care and I'm just going, about 300 years and then started talking about Copernicus. It's like, well, strictly that's wrong. I get it. People want me to be accurate. So whoever made those comments, I do take them to heart and I will take note and say, okay, fine. If I'm going to actually talk about specifically Copernicus, I'll say about 500 rather than about 300 if it makes everyone else who's, hypercritical, which you all are in the comments, happy. And, I'll try and work harder on those things that I haven't necessarily ascribed that much importance to. So, like, if you want to look it up and you see that Copernicus died 500 years ago and I've said 300 and you say, everything he says is wrong. Okay, fine. If you're going to be that guy, yeah, well, strictly speaking, you can disregard some of the information because it is strictly speaking inaccurate if I say 300 where I should have said 500. So taken, dutifully taken on board from you if you are that commenter. There was only a couple, but I want to be accurate. Oh, I want to ascribe more importance to the things that people who comment say are important. Because had no one had mentioned it, I'd just carry on in that vein, going, yeah, 300 years ago, the church came to their conclusions of heliocentrism. That's what you're taught now. Might have been the the swift summary of that particular thing that people have said I've got wrong, which I have. I'm not going to pretend I haven't. Any other comments on the what are they called again? I keep forgetting the name of the app. Omi TV videos. Maybe I should plug them. If you're watching live, there's a whole bunch of them, and I've even put a playlist together. So if you go to the homepage of Nathan Oakley 1980 and click on playlists, there's FE space OME.TV. And that playlist is basically every video I've done to date, with the exception of the ones that are like, they're not unedited, but they're like a string of all of them together in maybe a 30-minute video. They haven't been included, but all of the separate, nicely edited, packaged together in 2-minute, 5-minute, 20-minute, 40-minute videos are all going to end up in that playlist. So that particular style of video. And if you've seen them already, you know exactly what I mean by that style of video. They're obviously not flat earth debate videos. But they're in a playlist now, so check it out if you want to see what we're talking about. Or if you have already, thanks for watching it. Please leave a comment underneath them.
How do
160.
you have a vacuum without a container?
What time, Angels? Angels?
Yeah, that was me. They claim to have a vacuum, right? How do you have a vacuum without a container?
You don't.
I know.
Yeah, that's one half of the heliocentric model down the train, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other half is Earth curve. And that's it. That's the whole model gone.
Yeah, but not only that, they claim to have gas pressure next to a vacuum, both needing containment, but they're coexisting without because gravity.
Yeah, they have a special pleading fallacy and an appeal to a non-phenomena to get around their special pleading. I was explaining this to my wife literally only yesterday. The whole bullshit story through Newton, then onto Einstein, to have bent space-time reified into the Copernican world so that we can have essentially a moving of the scale from 0 to 1. So that when you're sat on your ass on your chair, you're at 1g rather than at 0. And when you're falling through the sky, hurtling towards the ground, that's 0g. And that's basically it. They've just moved the scale so that doing nothing is actually a force of 1.
You know what's funny? Their model claims acceleration and deceleration. I was just debating a physics degree guy before. And I go, but your model claims acceleration, deceleration. Why don't we feel that?
Well, why can't we measure it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no phenomena to observe. This is the problem, isn't it, for them? If they're going to claim they've got some scientific validity, all they've done is move to scale.
Oh, also, right, I'm like, the Earth has Coriolis, right? He's like, yes. I'm like, but you just said the atmosphere is coupled to the Earth. So the second you claim the atmosphere is coupled to the Earth perfectly with the rotation, there's no Coriolis. Like, you gotta have both.
Yeah, they need to have their cake and eat it in that scenario. Well, yes, the Earth and atmosphere are attached, until we look at gyroscopes deviating at 15 degrees an hour, or footballs going through goalposts because Earth turns underneath them. Then they're detached and separate, as they'd need to be to claim that you've got two separate reference frames that moves the stars because Earth's turning underneath them as per Coriolis deflection. That I'll deny when the effect isn't observed.
Yeah, because Neil deGrasse Tyson said so.
But he's a pretty good magician. He can work within the realm of there being two reference frames without explicitly stating it. It's one of my favourite Tyson magic tricks, actually. He's so clever with his words.
Yeah, I think he's actually a flat earther. Isn't he a 33rd degree? I've heard he's actually a 33rd degree Freemason, so he knows.
Maybe. Why would it matter?
No, it's just funny because he's got to talk about the globe model, right? And he's got to be accurate with it. But then when he says stuff that they don't like you can't see the curvature from higher than 120,000 feet, globers will be like, oh, no, well, you can. He's not right there. And, the field goal with Coriolis, oh, no, that's not true either. But your model claims it.
Yeah, he's playing to certain aspects of anti-flat earthism in the rhetoric of that stuff is flat. It does actually sway away from the official globe rhetoric. It's interesting when he does things like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like he's, interesting.
I mean, he's justifying it by scale and saying you wouldn't see curve of the Earth if you're an ant 2 millimeters above the speech ball, slap, 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 that stuff is flat. Well, that stuff being flat because you need to justify how we measure Earth flat, observe Earth flat, navigate Earth flat, map Earth flat. All these things are done and dealt with as a flat plane. So in some ways, the rhetoric must contain some justification for that. But it is anti-flat Earthism. The way the
Can I ask you a question?
Go on.
You know how, I'm pretty sure Neil deGrasse said you have to be on the moon to see the curvature. I don't know if you know that, but even on a globe, now I've got this question. Even on a globe, if you, let's say you were at 120,000 feet where Felix Wright was, on a globe model, would you actually see left to right curvature like all around you, or would it, due to perspective, would it just be flat as well? You know what I mean?
Yes, you would. So I've seen it modelled by, forgotten the guy's name, South African guy. I don't remember the guy, Rory Cooper was his name. I just can't remember. My Perspective modelled it 10 years ago. As soon as you raise in altitude, you're getting further and further away from the curving edge, and therefore the curvature would increase immediately. Their qualification for it is Earth curve mathematics. Now we know that mathematics doesn't include perspective, and when they use the magic trick of suggesting that we shouldn't see Earth curve at altitude, they're suggesting it based on perspective and your physical view of reality. But their assertion that we do have Earth curve starts at 0. Earth curve starts immediately. It's falling away from your feet in their claim
Yeah.
at 8 inches per mile squared, regardless of what Tyson says, to mitigate for not having any.
Yeah, like 1 foot observer height means the horizon's at 1.2 miles. So
Yep.
if the second you lift up and go up, that horizon line is now dipping down at an angle away from you. But they'll claim like, oh, I debated someone that said at 120,000 feet on the globe, the horizon would be 1 degree down. Ruhif said that to me.
Yeah, but that would be correct. So the horizon is the representation of where the sky meets the ground. But that's formed with the surface, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you're above the surface.
But
when
it's
you
an
raise an
optical
altitude.
location.
But you're above the surface if you raise an altitude. Therefore, that surface level, that optical dissolution point, will be below your eye level.
Yeah, 100%. But on a globe, it should be way further down, right? You should look way further down angled, right?
Yeah, you should be lifting with respect to a hill and seeing further and further and further and further over that hill. It used to be called by Anthony Riley or Sleeping Warrior the double dip. The fact that the perspective representation of what we see with our eyeballs, when coupled with the curvature effects of a ball we're not standing on, would be profound and obvious. Immediately, as soon as you raise an altitude.
Yeah. Yeah. The Earth is too big to see the curve. Boats go over the curve.
Here's the measurements in Earth curve maths when we exclude perspective and call it Earth curve.
Makes me laugh now when they're all saying they've got locally flat patches of ground underneath them. I mean, you know, if you stood everybody up over the plane of the Earth, then over the globe, then everybody would have a flat piece of ground underneath them. Therefore, the Earth would be flat.
Yeah, therefore the Earth would be flat. Well, their
Yeah.
tacit acceptance, as we're seeing, is as a direct result of us. I'm going to take full credit. We have made that happen. The more we talk about how Earth is measured flat, the more they feel the need to justify why they would be able and capable of measuring a flat Earth. To derive their sphere. They just fail to appreciate, and we'll be pointing it out till the day we all die, that you're first measuring Earth flat and then calculating your sphericity belief off the back of those measurements.
So you know when they take angles to stars or luminaries in the sky, aren't they depicting themselves from the center of the Earth?
Not yet, no. They're measuring. It depends how they tell their story. So there's a justification that they can move the angles they measure off a Dingleberry Earth tangent plane that doesn't meet GP positions, but they would suggest that when taking an angle from a flat plane that is tangent to a globe that's redundant or surplus to requirements, they can move the angles from the tangent plane to hell. Because it's just so almost parallel that basically means it's moving to the centre where it will only function. So no, they're not measuring from hell. They're measuring on the surface. They're just not measuring from the globe surface. And the surface they are measuring on won't work with triangles that meet GPs on the ground. But the Dingleberry will then be justified by moving those parallel light rays into hell, to answer your question concisely as I can. You can't measure angles in hell. We're not in hell. We're on a flat plane. That's where we get our angles from. Justifying how they can be in hell to make them somehow function in a globe isn't our concern. We don't need to do that conversion process. It isn't part of the process when you draw circles on a flat plane. You just get the GP positions for the stars that you're measuring angles with off a flat plane, and then you draw them on a flat map. There's no globe bit in it.
Yeah. Also, just a simple thing like a time lapse, right, of Polaris. The stars, like the trails, they're perfectly clean cut. They don't intersect, right? Like, how do they, I just don't understand why these people think, with all these motions that their model is doing, that would be happening.
None of them will have contemplated it, because complicated, they put it to the back of their mind. I've done it myself. Various different aspects of gravity when I was a kid didn't make sense, and I just went, okay, well, I'll put that to the back of my mind as something I need to figure out later because it's just too complicated. It doesn't make sense. Now, rather than saying as a kid, it doesn't make sense, full stop, you assume that you're doing something wrong, that it's your inferiority in terms of comprehension of this particular aspect they've taught you that doesn't make sense. It can't be that it's just wrong and they're just teaching you something that's garbage. It's just, I don't understand it, is how you rationalize it, isn't it?
But Nathan, by the
Yes.
way, what's up, guys?
Hey, D.
I just think, we know what the agenda is. They're just being difficult because if you think about it, when we all grew up and we were being indoctrinated about this, it wasn't complex. It was very simple. It might have had A, B, and C to it, blam. And we accepted it because at the time we weren't critical thinkers and we weren't using our common senses and we weren't aware of things that we're being told now as adults, which is being described and explained in specificity to the point redundant repeatedly. So the reverse cannot be that difficult to accept. It just can't be. It's just the point of not wanting to accept it because you don't want to let go of your belief. That's it. Being difficult because what we're learning now, that is debunking and refuting everything that we were indoctrinated about, makes more sense with very much more explanatory detail. So, and we're adults. So we have those aspects of critical thinking in our minds. We do it with everything else. Mostly everybody on here inspire a theory about something that they don't trust, whether it be their government or some authoritative figure. So we have that mindset in our head. So what we're learning now, it's not hard to reverse the indoctrination. It's just that they don't want to. Either whatever incentive it is, some of them are monetarily. They make money by just, kicking this narrative of the globe. But let's stop it. They're just being difficult.
Shout out to Unishox Femi, who says, I always have language barrier because of angles. Okay. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, I was going to ask, about the Marconi transmission, with I think 2,200 miles. Like back then, they didn't know the ionosphere existed, right? When they shot that.
I think they made it up as a consequence.
Yeah. So they made it up as a consequence. Are there now? I've heard that there are now radio beams that are sent that should penetrate the ionosphere, but they still reach the target. Do you know about any of these?
Not really. I know how the magic trick works. When we get there, I'll tell you. They control the distances, don't they? They're measuring with respect to the time it takes the light to travel. Well, how do they control? Well, how are they getting the scaling for those timings? They've got control of all of it, haven't they? It's the scale within light speed within the heliocentric model, all derived from R, that gives them their claim of their return distances. So when they say it'll be at this particular time, well, says who? Well, says the scale based on light speed and Keplerian orbital motion, scaled with R.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is they didn't think it'd work, the Marconi transmission, because it should have hit the curvature of the Earth, right? What I'm trying to say is that it reaches line of sight. And if there are radio transmissions beaming out that should penetrate the ionosphere, or what they made up, right? Then if we're still receiving those signals, then obviously they got a huge problem. And I believe that there's I heard Witsit say, I haven't verified it, but there's declassified documents of this happening. I think it's 10,000 miles, and these signals are just insanely long distance, and they should penetrate the ionosphere.
I see. So there's a contradiction in the narrative. Yeah, I mean, it's not something I've paid a great deal of attention to. as you've already identified, they slather a layer of bullshit over the top of any issues that they have when there's an obvious expose of flat Earth in terms of how something physically works. You know, they'll come up with this straight line that we know is straight must be bending because we're on a ball. That's basically the narrative that they'll follow with as many layers as the public will swallow.
You know what's another funny one? We all learnt in school that one day is 24 hours, one time around the sun is 1 year, and 360 degrees is how long, how much it takes to face back where you were, right? But if you do that with the globe model, every 6 months, night and day would flip. Do you know that?
Yeah, I remember looking at it about 10 years ago in terms of the way the model
Mhm.
works. You'd be on the arse side of the sun in their model.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so then they say, oh, well, now it's 361 degrees to make up for that.
Yeah, it's just smearing of, like I said, heliocentric bullshit. Every time they find a crack in the model, they just smear another layer of garbage over the top of it to try and justify it. It's a never-ending stream
exactly.
of this doesn't work, so this is the reason why it doesn't work. It's apologetics, constant apologetics. Yeah, good stuff. We had a fundy in.
Also,
Oh, go on.
I was going to say, also with the argument with the attitude indicator in planes, how they say, oh, pendulous veins magically tethers around the globe, right, and adjusts for it. The problem with that is pendulous veins were invented 25 years after the attitude indicator, and not all planes even have pendulous veins, right, in the attitude indicator. So it's it's just so stupid, like that they have to justify these things that are just obviously like the attitude indicator is a flat Earth instrument.
Yeah, that's something Brian's chasing down at the moment just to prove that, because the pitch data is going to show that. I mean, we already know that's the case. They already know it's the case. They just don't want it confirmed by an official source, which is quite amusing.
Yeah.
But Brian's chasing that down currently. But you're absolutely right. You know, they're band-aid apologetics. It's like, do any of them actually look internally and go, do I really accept this band-aid? Or do I just get angry that a flat earther doesn't just carte blanche accept it so I can forget about it?
Yeah, exactly. Another simple proof, right? Like if anyone has planes, go like fly in the south, like say Tropic of Capricorn, way below the equator, and set your marker in heading west or whatever. Say you set it west and you make a marker where west is, and just fly at the marker that you made. Let the compass deviate, and if you have to turn right and keep turning right to follow west, then welcome to flat Earth, right? Because on a globe you'd have to turn left.
Yeah. Same with the pitch. You'd have to nose down. You've got to go around the curve if you've got one. Then none of this is happening. It's just...
You have no idea how many pilots I've debated, right? It's insane, man. But the thing is, it's like, how, like, I explained to them, how do you go around a globe without nosing down? And they're like, oh, you just follow the, what it's called? The pressure altitude. I'm like, well, the pressure gradient wraps around the globe, right? They're like, yeah. Well, you'd have to adjust for it then. Like, they just think you follow a constant height above the ground and it's sorted. But no, you'd have to adjust for the Earth curving away and down and away from you as you're flying. You'd have to nose down.
Right. Hey, Duncan.
Hello, Nathan.
How's it going?
Very well, thank you. Hope you had a nice birthday.
I did. It was very nice.
Awesome. And I liked your Lex Luthor haircut too.
Yeah, that was done on my birthday.
As a prank or what?
Cheeky sod. Now, I've already told this story in the pre-show, but yeah, my wife happened to be with me in the hairdressers. I asked if it was okay. She agreed. So there we go. It's not a very exciting story.
Awesome. Good for you, sir.
Right, has there been any other news? We've talked about Will Duffy. We've talked about what we just talked about a second
Nathan,
ago.
there's a.
Go on.
Sorry for interrupting. There's a Global Believer in a voice chat, and I believe you never spoken with him before. His name is Dude. Dude, if you're there, if you'd like to say hello, feel free. If not, no pressure either. Hello, Dude. I guess not. I spoke with him shortly, asked him what does he have any glow proofs, and he says, you just gotta read a lot of books. I asked him which books are those? Can you point me to any? He said, no, you just gotta read a lot of books.
Like the ones
Dude,
that
if
we
you're
read
there,
in like primary school.
yeah. Oh, I'm not sure, man. Dude, if you're there, do you know which books we're supposed to read to know what you know?
Or what evidence are in that
Doesn't
books
feel
that
like
prove a
talking, I
globe?
guess.
Was that Dude?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Can you hear us, Dude? Yeah, you're in a voice chat, right?
Is it the guy with the
Yeah.
hat? The guy?
Yep. He's in the voice chat. Yep. He's an older gentleman. But yeah, he just believes in gravity and globe and all that. And I asked him for evidence of any of that stuff, and the only thing he could tell me, I
Oh,
just got to read a lot of books. I got
I
to
want to
read a
know
lot of
like
books.
I want to know like with gravity, like explain to me how a helium balloon floats using the current model of gravity.
There's another globe believer in the voice chat also, Goda. I don't think I've ever seen this person before. Good morning, Goda. Goda, would you like to say hello? Do you have any globe proof, maybe? Or just listening to conversations? Goda, all right. I don't feel like talking, I guess. Sorry for interruption, Nathan.
You're in voice chat. Why are they in voice chat then? Maybe
This is
shy guys.
valuable real estate here.
Who's that? Go ahead.
Nathan, remember the green flash argument with the sun? How it proves it sets above the horizon? Do you want me to go over that for the panel?
Yeah, I said at the time I'm colourblind, so it wouldn't have sunk in for me to reiterate it or summarise it beforehand, but go ahead.
Okay, so when we look at the sunset, we sometimes capture what's called a green flash above the sun. So the light refracts and you can see like a blue and green above the sun. Now, when you get a triangular prism and you shine a light from below the prism, it'll refract the light rainbow in a certain orientation. So when you do it from the below the prism upward into it, it will have the red and yellow on top. Okay. And now when you get the light and shine it on top of the prism downwards towards it, it will invert those colors and the green and blue will be on top. Now in reality, the sun, we see the green and blue on top, meaning that even though the sun is technically, because of perspective, at the horizon and setting, it's way above your head still because the light's coming from above you. So yeah, just cool proof that a sun sits above the horizon.
Did everyone follow along with that? Just can I get a quick straw poll of everyone who just listened? Did you all follow that?
I'm gonna be honest. I had my phone on silent because I had to walk through the hallway where I work at. So no, but I love the last thing that he said. It's something I could tell my children. No matter how low it looks afar, it's really still way above our head, just like if we were standing right underneath it. I like that ending.
Because
I got a little lost, honestly.
no,
Sorry.
that's okay. That's what I want to hear. So, based on what D. Rose has explained, he understood the end, which is to say that the conclusion is that the sun must be at a higher altitude than you're viewing it from, regardless of its apparent position with respect to the horizon. You've called that perspective, fine. But you're saying it's in terms of its position to create that green flash, the way the light must be coming towards your eye is from above. Do you want to just go through it again so that it's crystal clear for the audience?
Okay, yep. So yeah, again, like the atmosphere acts as a prism and refracts light. Okay, so just to get that clear, So all we're doing with this triangular prism that you can buy, you get a light, you shine it through the prism, but you have the light above the prism, down towards the prism, and it will make the colors of the rainbow in a certain orientation. Though when you shine it from above the prism, the green and blue will be on top. Now you do it from the opposite way around, so you do the light coming up towards the prism, so from down below it, and the red and yellow will be on top. Now in reality, when you watch a sunset, we see the blue and green on top of the sun refracting last, which means even though it's at eye level setting because of perspective, the sun is technically still way above your head and the light's coming from above, and that proves it. On a globe, if it's setting below the horizon, the colors should be inverted. It should have the red and yellow refracting last, but it's not like that.
Okay, I'm going to ask again. Did you follow along that time?
Indeed, because I work in
Yes.
optics, and yes, we work with prisms when it comes to making people that have lazy eyes, and that is exactly right with the prisms.
Yeah, I thought it
Wow,
would only
that's
take a couple of round robin because he's explained it to me. Thanks, by the way. He explained it to me once before and it didn't fully sink in, but when he reiterated it just now on the live stream for me a second time, it did sink in. But I thought, well, it didn't sink in the first time, that's for damn sure. So maybe he could repeat it. And I've heard a few people say, yes, they understood it now. What about Discord? Did everyone follow along?
I'm kind of slow. I didn't quite. What's turning green during a sunset?
Okay, perfect question. Go ahead.
So, yeah, so the sun's light is white and it's refracting light through the atmosphere to our eyes, right? And when you look at a sunset, you actually see the colors of the rainbow on the sun, right? Just like when we get those triangular prisms that I'm talking about, you shine a light through it. I wish I could put it up on screen; it'd be so much easier to see. But it orientates
you
these
see the
rainbow
rainbow in the
colors in a
water,
certain
too.
way.
Just 1 second,
Yeah.
Duncan.
So, is my turn?
Yes, you carry on. You're the one making this point.
Oh, yeah. So basically, all I'm trying to say is because the sun is setting above our heads, even though it looks like it's on the horizon because of perspective, the way the colors are refracting with the green and blue flash on top of the sun means that it's setting way above your head and the light is coming towards your eyes above the horizon, even though it looks to be setting below the horizon due to perspective. Basically, it just proves that, oh, well, if it was a globe, let's just say it was a globe, the colors would be inverted because technically it is below you, right? It's going below the horizon, going below the curve. But because we see the green flash in a certain orientation with it above the sun, proves that it's actually way above our heads and just setting due to perspective.
And we know that in practical application in terms of where it would be orientated from ground positions. You can suggest that, let's say that the sun, just for easy numbers, will set 1,000 miles away from your location. In other words, it'll meet and greet the horizon from your point of view when it's 1,000 miles away. Well, you can, again, in this simplified example, suggest that that particular location is where someone is standing. What you see 1,000 miles away as the horizon in this example is actually somebody's actual standing point where they are, with the sun directly above their head, again in a very oversimplified description. So for them, it's the middle of the day with the sun directly over their head. For you, the sun is meeting and greeting the horizon. Now, obviously, it's above them, it's not crashing into them at the horizon as it appears to do from your perspective. Ergo, we know that it has a GP position 1,000 miles away from you, even though you can see it meeting the horizon. Now, yes, very oversimplified, dumbed down numbers, but we know that it's above another position above the land at a given time when it's setting for someone else. That is to say, we know damn well it's above the land still. It never hits the horizon. It never goes, quote, below the horizon for its practical use. Now, the fact that that is literally what it would be doing if you're describing a globe Earth turning with respect to a sun in a solar system, a model derived from flat Earth measurements in the first instance, I might add, then it would necessarily be going below your position relative to you turning away from its position. Therefore, the light and how it would behave would be very different to how it actually behaves, given that it's functionally above us. And we know it is.
It's like
Morning,
it's funny
guys.
when they start, hey mate, when they start suggesting that you could get the height of a star or sun through triangulation, and then, so if they're saying you can do that, then obviously depending on the angle of the sun, it would be at different heights.
Yeah, shout out to Brian, who was the first to highlight that fact. I'm going to suggest you can acquire actual elevation information for any of the luminaries, then you are inferring that when they reach zero, they're crashing into the horizon. For them to have some physical representation when you take those angle measurements and reify them for celestial objects only into physical locations, you can't do that. You don't know what they are, you don't know where they are. We've got a vague idea about where they're moving above because of all the distorted maps that we can utilise. They do function. We can find our way around with maps. But they are distorted because of the globe projection process that is used in between our useful, what we get as consumers at the end of that process, and the in-between projection stage that includes a globe that makes the whole thing distorted. So, yeah.
Nathan, could I share my screen? Is that possible?
Probably
to
not.
show what I'm talking about, the green flash.
Is it a video or a picture?
All right.
Is it a video or a picture?
It's just a picture, just an image.
Stick it in the chat, and someone will stick it in Discord so I can get it to the audience.
Okay. 1 second.
And one of the mods pop it in Master B for me.
And as far as the colors go, we know that's true because the rainbow always goes in the same color order, right? Does that make sense?
Sorry, which chat do I go to?
Doesn't have a color order. It's an idea that
so the rainbow doesn't always show up in the same order of colors.
Yeah, it's on a spectrum, but there's no distinction in a rainbow. It's a constant fading. You know when you see a color swatch on a computer?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
There's no, you can't go, well, there's red. Well, red might be 1 pixel in that little mess of colors, but it's a constant graduation through the color spectrum. Now, for me, that's 2 colors. I don't see much of rainbows.
I have a
I get the whole perspective thing. I just never noticed the color green above the sun during the sunset.
Me neither.
That's the only thing I'm a little confused about. Well, yeah, you can't see colors.
We're sending a picture, hopefully. Go ahead, Duncan.
All right.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
grabbing
just
it.
saying I'm green, brown, gray, colorblind, so I'm not sure if I see it correctly either.
Did somebody already deal with the atmosphere and we got refraction for sure in the atmosphere? Did somebody already deal with that? I had to get up and
no, nobody's dealt with that. No.
So somebody let them get away with that?
One of our own, actually.
Who's one of our own? Who said that?
That was me, Angels of Light.
Angels
the
of
guy
Light.
with the guitar. Yes.
Number one, atmosphere is a contradiction in terms. Atmo means air. Air is a gas. Sphere is a shape. Gases have no inherent shape. Number two, can you define refraction for everyone, please?
The bending of light through a medium.
That's not it.
Is that right?
No.
Give him Snell's law if you know what it is. That's what he's fishing for.
Oh wow, Snail's law. Geez, sorry, I haven't been in flat Earth for that long. What would you ask?
Someone's got to say
definition
it.
Of
I've got to do it.
refraction?
I'm really sorry. I've just got to do it. We don't train to time
go ahead.
here. We train to standards.
Well,
ipso facto.
Ipso facto.
Well, QE, I can only tell you in an ophthalmological aspect.
Oh, don't bloody start with your long words.
That would, huh?
Don't start.
Was I talking to QE?
Yeah, you were.
Oh,
Sorry,
QE.
we've all just piled in
legend.
for no reason. I'm really sorry. Yeah, he's asked you to define what refraction is.
Yeah, okay, so I thought it was the bending of light through a medium fraction. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. So what is it? What's the definition? Should I Google it?
No. Snell's law, also known as Snell-Descartes law and the law of refraction, is a formula used to describe the relationship between the angles of incidence and refraction when referring to light or other waves. Light's not a wave, but I digress. Passing through a boundary between two different isotropic media, such as water, glass, or air. End of citation.
Okay.
There you go.
So by me saying bending of light through a medium, is that technically correct? Just not fully
Technically
explained
incorrect.
properly.
Technically incorrect.
Okay.
You want me to read it again?
Yeah, go ahead. Go again.
Snell's law, or the law of refraction, is a formula used to describe the relationship between the angles of incidence and refraction, referring to light or other waves passing through a boundary, key word right there, between two different isotropic media, such as water, glass, or air. I emphasize the two words.
So would the
Okay,
medium
so-
be air and water?
Hold on, D.
So when the sun's light comes down to us, is a gradient defined as two mediums or not really, like the thicknesses?
No, and there are no boundary gradients.
Okay, this is interesting.
How about the gas and the water?
So yeah, but the sun doesn't always set over water, right? So I'm trying to work it out. What you're trying to say? I mean, I get it, but then it's like I can't. But I don't know why I'm not fully getting it now.
You need two
I'm willing
different
to learn. That's
isotropic
cool.
media. You need two different isotropic media, not just one. The atmo is only one media, and there are no boundaries in gases. There's no surfaces.
So you're saying you have to have the ground, whether it be the surface, whether it be water or dirt, whatever.
No, I'm not saying
Oh
that.
no. Okay.
I'm saying you have to have two different media in the atmo, and you only have one. That's what I'm saying.
So how does it work then? Like if it's
I knew it. I was
how does
waiting
light
for that.
refract?
I was just waiting for
How does it
the
work? I'm so confused now.
Oh,
How does it work through the
I just walked
atmos?
into a giant bear trap. Did you just ask,
Tournament.
did you just ask QE to explain your claim for you?
No. Just
The fundament.
man. QE's too good for me.
Hold on, this is a great baptism of fire.
Yeah, I like this. So hang on. So
Taking it well.
so the sun's light is refracting through the atmosphere,
Does he?
but you need two mediums.
Through the
Wait.
atmo. Through the atmo.
That's not the issue, D.
Atmos, yeah.
Let me just break this down.
Doesn't have a shape.
Now, hold on, just one sec, because D said that, and it's drawn my attention. There may be people in the audience that know what we're talking about. Okay, right. So the claim on the table is, right, we've got a green flash as a result of the light coming through, and this is QE's objection. It would have to be traversing a separate medium. So in the diagrams at the bottom with the triangle, it's going through a triangle. That's the second medium in order to make that effect happen. QE saying, you've only got one medium. Where's the triangle between you and the sun?
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. I thought the atmosphere was creating that effect.
Well, no, but between the triangle, in your diagram, between the triangle and the light, there's still atmo, and then there's a triangle. So that's the second medium, isn't it? For it to traverse to create this effect that you're describing.
Yes.
Now, we're not saying the effect isn't real. You've got photos of it. That's fine. But we're saying your explanation for it with refraction is flawed.
Okay.
It's because the mistake you've made is you've ascribed cause and effect, haven't you?
Yeah, I've said refraction causes the rainbow to refract in a certain orientation.
Right, and based on that cause and effect reasoning, you've then concluded that the only reason you could have that cause and effect is because the sun's higher. Now, the conclusion I summarised with a I can suggest why it's already above certain positions anyway without using this. But QE's come along and gone, no, this guy needs a bum smacking. Now you've had one.
I keep hearing that word angle in this whole thing. So we got one thing, the Atmo being one.
I know
And the
about all
second
of the
one,
what do you call them?
the sophis?
What are they? Yeah, what is it called? Specular reflections, right? You said something about incident angle, and they need to be. So the way a specular reflection works is the law of reflection. You need a lake that's calm and flat. If it's perfectly flat, you'll have a perfect mirror reflection. I'm really trying to work out.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with the topic, though. So, I don't know. I wasn't here when we were. Hold on a second. I wasn't here the rest of your story. I just heard refraction through the atmosphere, and we must understand that. That's all I heard. So I don't know where you went after that. Did you go to rainbows?
Well, my argument was, did you hear my argument about the green flash above the sun?
No, he didn't.
No, I did not.
Okay, this is what I was saying. So the green flash above the sun, the green and blue flash, in reality, we see when the sun sets, you can capture the green and blue flash above the sun, right? Now, when you get a prism, like that prism in the picture I put, if you get a light and shine it through the prism, but on coming down towards the prism, it'll orientate the colors of the rainbow in a certain way, having the blue and green on top of the red and yellow if it comes down towards the prism. If it comes from below the prism up towards it, the red and yellow will be on top. Now, in reality, what we see is the green flash above the sun. So that means even though due to perspective, the sun is setting and it's at your eye level, going below the horizon or away, it's still technically way above your head. And the last colors to refract are the green and blue. And I think purple is the last one.
Okay, fair enough. That's not refraction, though. We already seen that.
All right, we established that. I'm trying to find out. This is going to be the second.
Why is D Rose in this discussion?
Because I'm into refraction, bruh. I do it every day. But the way he's breaking it down, you said we got Atmo as being one of the mediums. The other medium, as we know, the majority of our plane is water. Okay, so you know where that sun is. I don't care whether you think it's over a continent by itself. It's over lots of water. And there's your two things. Atmo and the water on the surface. The surface is a baseline that's horizontal and level, just like his prism. Therefore, that's why you got the effect that we have.
Huh?
From the angle of measurement from the sun to the surface of our Earth. There you go. Water on the surface.
Yeah, but he's suggesting.
There I go.
He's suggesting that there's a thick layer of humidity in the lower layers of the air.
The waters are down. Yeah, the water's down there.
No.
So wait, are we QE? Am I trying to work out what two mediums there are to cause this?
Yeah, you're not going to find any two media. There are none. There's only one. So, and where's Wally in the chat? Some Divergent just put this in here. Where's Wally? You're a retard. You don't know what Snell's law is, and so are all of your Glober buddies. I have yet to have a Glober in over 8 years define what refraction is. The only thing they do is refraction. That's it. No one's ever defined it correctly in 8 years.
I love this. Hey, on a clear day you see further, right? But Chicago skyline is a mirage.
Chicago skyline's not a mirage. What's a mirage?
I know I'm trolling. I know I'm trolling.
Oh, I have yet to have one of them define a mirage correctly.
I think Chicago's
a mirage. Define a mirage.
Chicago is not a mirage. Define what a mirage is, please.
Did you say me?
Anyone.
Okay. A mirage is the bending of light
illusion
through an atmosphere.
No. I'll give you a hint, though. You've got superior and inferior versions of these. So
Yeah. So
gonna...
superior, wait, inferior mirage, is that the one that's upside down?
Close. There's another aspect to it that includes the upside down aspect as well.
There is another aspect. Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be two parts to the image that you're going to see. One is going to be upside down or inverted versus the original image. That's a mirage.
So the original image is the one that you have line of sight to, right? And then the one that's upside down is the one that's basically the mirage that's upside down, that's caused by the mirror image, as in what you're looking at.
Not exactly.
So a mirage shows an extra image or images of the object in question. When you look at Chicago, is there an extra image or images of that object?
Is there another Chicago below
Nope.
Chicago?
No,
it's not a mirage.
That's why it's just the real. Exactly, it's just the real thing. You just a clear day. You're seeing what's there.
That doesn't actually need to,
But you know
state that, though. You realise that that's a trap. There's literally there's no explanation required. Literally, the label of what's in the photo is sufficient for you as a flat earther. What is it?
Oh yeah.
Chicago.
It's just the skyline that's not below the curvature because the Earth's flat.
Why did you add that bit at the end? That's not below the curvature. Why would you have to add that?
Which part? The what? Wait, say again?
Let me tell you a little story. There's two guys, and they're sitting there looking over a bay, a town that's across the way, and this town's 20 miles away. And the one guy's turned to the other, and he says, "See that clock? Can you see it right in the distance?" And the guy next to him says, "Yeah, I do see that clock." And the guy says, "Yeah, I could almost tell the time off that clock. It's mad how far we can see." And the guy next to him says, "No, we're not actually seeing that clock. It's a slightly looming non-standard refraction mirage of the clock from behind the physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature. Therefore, it's not a clock. The hologrammatic projection of a clock raised up, loomed up from behind the curve of the Earth. You're not really seeing the clock. It's a mirage." Now, that guy's a globe believer. And the flat earther's response is, "I just see a clock."
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Not, "I just see a clock that should be behind Earth curve." That's not what the flat earther says. He just says, "I see a clock because I got eyeballs."
Yeah, exactly. It's there. I see it. There's no curvature to hide this.
You keep doing it. You're stuck in this perpetual
I did it
loop.
again.
You did it again.
I did it again.
Saying there's no curvature. Okay, yeah, there's also no hippopotamus. There's a lot of things that aren't there that you could state but don't need to. There are no alien invaders.
Okay.
Yeah? There's Chicago. There's no alien invaders. Why would you say that? Because there isn't any. Well, were you expecting alien invaders to be there? Well, no, but,
No.
you would expect them. So I'm just pointing out that the ones you're expecting aren't there.
No, I just see a clock.
See Chicago.
Can I ask? Are you
Yes.
kind of a new flat earther? Like, are you new to this? Just asking a
Yeah,
question.
so I've been a flat earther for less than 2 years. But I have a TikTok channel and I've debated pilots, astrophysicists, physics degree professors, PhDs. I don't know if you know who Blitz PhD is, but I schooled him on Coriolis. It's pretty funny.
This guy's one of us. We've reviewed one of this guy's videos. We had him on. We reviewed
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Bob the science guy.
He's the one with the
Absolute moron.
Coriolis.
He's the guy that debated Bob the
Yes, that's
Science
me.
Guy. Do you remember? Chocolate?
The guy that debated who?
Bob the Science Guy.
Oh, a while ago, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I remember you. Cool, man. Well,
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you.
You'll remember he had a very good
Yeah.
grasp of Coriolis. In fact, when he joined the panel last time, he was like, "Coriolis is easy," which I scoffed at immediately.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
I mean, if you're going to claim the Earth is spinning at 15 degrees per hour, you do the math, that's 460 meters a second at the equator. If I let go of a helium balloon, the Earth does not rotate underneath the helium balloon. Therefore, no Coriolis.
You can summarize it beautifully. You've obviously got your head wrapped around this perfectly. That is not most people's grasp of this, I assure you. That's perfect. You're right.
That's surprising to me. Surprising.
Have we, before we move on, have we solved the refraction thing before we go off on 18 other
No.
different tangents?
I really do
that
want to solve
refraction,
it.
while we're on that refraction thing, QE and Nathan, this might be something good that you can actually present on your politics on Friday night, yeah? Because may I suggest to any flat earther in here that hasn't watched it, go back and watch QE's videos on refraction and terrestrial refraction. And they're awesome, yeah? And I mentioned politics, Nathan, because how many times now I hear flat earthers with the black swan saying, well, yeah, yep, I agree. There is some refraction going on there.
Yep.
And I
that's
tear my
annoying.
hair out.
What?
What's that, sorry?
You did. Sorry to criticise you, AJ. It almost grieves me that you should suggest that in response to the black swan, people should need to learn what refraction is. No. The fact that you're suggesting they should learn that as a response to the rebuttal kind of also misses the point. You don't need to learn about refraction. Their response addresses the cranes. Okay? So there's wibbly wobbly cranes.
Yeah,
what's the argument, though? The argument's not about anything other than the horizon.
No, we get told as well that the horizon's refracted, and that's the only reason why we can see it.
Perfect. Stop. Everyone stop. So they tell you that their Earth curve isn't Earth curve, correct? It's refracted.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
So do you know what the response to that is, AJ?
So the horizon's not geometric.
Hold on. Everyone else, stop. Yes, you may, Chocolate.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
Welcome to Flat Earth. So the horizon's not Earth curve then. It's not a physical geometric sphere edge limitation. It's refracted. So they lose. That's them conceding.
I love it.
There's not Earth curve
Just
then.
a suggestion because
1 second.
I hear a lot of times when this comes up.
Hold on, QE. Just one sec, QE. Go ahead, AJ. Then QE.
Oh, I was just bringing it up because I do hear a lot of times people actually, when refraction is mentioned in the black swan image, that they don't really know how to answer that. And what they do is they say, oh, yeah, there could be some refraction occurring there. And I think that refraction and terrestrial refraction is a good topic that you could cover.
Can I rephrase that before QE goes? You're basically saying flat earthers don't know when they've won.
Yeah, 100%.
Go ahead, QE.
I'm talking probably newer people to the conversation, yeah?
Yeah,
Not the old school
that's when
guys,
they've won.
yeah.
That's when the argument's concluded because they've won. Their opponent's telling you it isn't Earth curve, and they're telling you what it isn't and how it isn't that. So you go, welcome to Flat Earth.
100%.
Go ahead, QE.
Yeah, Divergent Droid, I'm in Skype, so that's why I'm getting these messages. Divergent Droid's posted, I'm going to close Skype out here in a second. Where's Wally posted, Divergent Droid posted, where's Wally comment again. So where's Wally retard? This is the last time I'm going to address you because you're retarded. Your first statement says, at QE, why does light bend through a saltwater gradient? Number one, that's a false equivalence fallacy. You idiot, Egypt. Number two, show us a saltwater gradient in the Atmo. There isn't one. You
and third, a sugar gradient is described with respect to a horizontal plane of reference.
You made me spit my drink.
Need a flat Earth to describe it.
And fourth, are you standing in the salt water? Or what? Are you serious, man?
What are the refractive index of goggles?
Don't they claim that there's a salt? What do you call it? Salt layer in the atmosphere. Sodium layer.
Sodium layer. I've heard this.
Sodium layer.
All right, let's just get that out of the way. There are no. This is why we just brushed over what D. Rose said. There are no layers in air, right? It's an anisotropic, inhomogeneous mixture of gases, and the quantities, while they do thin out as you go up, where you're moving away from the production of those gases, the actual quantities are the same. If you go up to the top of Everest, you might be breathing thinner air, but it's the same air. It's not like you've got a layer, suddenly you go up and you're like, bloody hell, I'm in the nitrogen layer. It doesn't work. Air is predominantly gaps, isn't it? So all of the different gases can just interact in a mixture.
Yeah.
Can't they? So there's no layers.
Could I ask, right? Could I ask, like, if we have a container and we have different gases, right, in that container that are different densities, wouldn't they layer out?
No.
In a container?
They don't form layers. They're not bonded.
I was going to say gas doesn't segregate.
How are they going to form layers? They're not bonded together.
Yeah, I understand, yeah, but don't they, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So they still move through each other.
I did this on Omi, so I'll do it with you, right? If you fart, do you get a puddle? Or does it just dissipate throughout the rest of the house, letting everyone know how dirty and stinky you are?
Dissipates.
Right. That's what all gases do. So you might have a temporary concentration at the point of production. So if you go, look, next to this leaf, there's loads of oxygen. No, that you just right next to something producing oxygen.
Okay, gotcha. Cool.
That doesn't mean we've got layers. Anything else?
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Right, with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, gifted memberships, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, or gifted a membership, and all that good stuff. Be sure to hit me up on Coffee and PayPal. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.